Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we'd have a quick look at this. It's a ZX Spectrum Plus 2. It's not actually the computer we're going to be looking at. I picked this up probably a month or so back with a load of games and a load of other stuff, untested, well, tested and sold as faulty. As it happens, when I tried it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. It works fine. I've been playing a few games on it and testing it out. I haven't fully serviced it yet, but I will service this, and then it will get a little internal SD card solution fitted to it, a bit like a DivM IDE, but it's like a MMC version, which I fitted to my Plus 3. But anyway, that's not the reason behind this quick little video. I was using this the other day and it stopped working, and the LED went out there. It's the power light went out on it, and I checked the fuse in the plug and that was okay, and I tried the power supply off my Plus 3 on it and it works absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The old Plus 2 power supply has failed. Unfortunately, I have had a look inside. I have had a look at this, and unfortunately, it is actually the transformer in this one which has gone belly up. Usually, it's one of the little transistors used in here, or one of the capacitors, or just even the fuses inside seem to fail with age. But unfortunately, in this instance, it's actually the transformer in there that's gone kaput. The primary windings open on it. So yeah, that's unfortunately. It will get rebuilt. I will find a transformer to fit that eventually, and I will rebuild that. But for the moment, that's scrap at the moment, unfortunately. So what I've done, I've got, through a contact through work, I ended up with a load of these. They're industrial, they're out of some industrial computer equipment. They were touchscreen panels to drive some industrial equipment, and they were being decommissioned, and I was able to go in there and salvage some parts, and some of the parts that I salvaged was a number of these power supplies. Now, they're not a standard. They did actually drive basically a touch panel computer, but they're not a standard ATX power supply. They use the same soft power on techniques as an ATX power supply. They produce 5 volts, 12 volts. They also produce a 5 volts which is a standby supply, which is always on, and they also produce a 24 volt supply because they actually powered a little readout printer in the application they was used for. But so the standby supply I'm not using the 24 volt supply. I'm just using the 5 and the 12 volt off these. I know these and the Plus 3 technically you need a minus 12 volt supply as well, but that's actually only for the MIDI interface on the back of the computer, and if you're not going to use the MIDI interface, you don't need that minus 12 volt supply. So this is perfectly good with the Plus 5 and Plus 12. It's massively overrated for a Plus 2A or Plus 3 Spectrum. It produces 5 volts at 12 amps and 12 volts at 15 amps. So the good thing about this is, if you say you was using a Plus 3 and you wanted to have a load of other additional things, perhaps you had a Div IDE plugged into the back of it, and even a couple of 3.5 inch hard drives, this will power it. This has got enough power to power anything you want to string off the back of your Spectrum, really. I've even, on this one, basically all I did was, as it came, it had a power connector that came off it with a edge connector on it that went onto the motherboard of these computers. It was a bit like an ATX connector, but it wasn't. It was actually an 18 pin connector rather than a 20 pin connector. So I cut that off. I found a piece of cable and I just oh, that's that one. I wired a 6-pin DIN like that. The Sinclair Plus 2A 6-pin DIN. I had a few of these in stock, so I just wired one of them. That plugs into the back of the computer, no problem. Like I said, I left. This went to a hard disk drive, and I think it went to a little card reader or something like that as well. Or did it go to a solid state hard? I can't remember the actual configuration they're in, but these came off there originally and powered other things in the computer. So I've left that on just surely. So I've got two Molex connectors, and I've got these small, I think it's like a miniature Molex used for a 3.5-inch floppy drive. So if I want to use this with my Plus 3 and I want to connect a 3.5-inch floppy drive externally, I've got the power connector for it there. The only other mod I've had to do to this is, obviously in its original application it used the power on standby system with the computer to actually power the power supply up. So all I've done is I trace them lines back off the multi-pin connector, and all it is it basically takes a signal to ground. You take one line, you put it to ground, and it fires the power supply up. So I've just run that through a little switch there, so if you flick the switch that way, it fires it up, the fan spins up and the computer switches on, and you can just switch it off again like that, no problem. It does have a fan in it. I'm considering whether or not to perhaps put a resistor in line with that fan, just slow it down a little bit. There's no way this thing's going to overheat. It was designed to be mounted inside a rack mount, well, a panel mount enclosure, sat out on a bench, pulling the type of currents that we're going to be using with the Spectrum. There's no way it's ever going to overheat. You could probably get away with even disconnecting the fan. I'm not going to do that. I'm probably just going to add a resistor to it just to slow it down a bit, because like I said, it's a bit noisy at the moment. But apart from that, it works really, really well, this power supply with the Spectrum. I will just power it up now and show you it running. So just it's all nice and safe, this as well, because it's all covered in a proper industrial heat shrink. That's as it came. We've just got an IEC connector on top. Then all we need to do, what we've plugged into the back of the Spectrum, is flick the little switch that there we go, and our Spectrum's up and running. So we can, I don't think I've got a game here. See if we've got something, stick something in and see if it'll start to load it. What is it? Fist 2. I'm sure that would have a different meaning nowadays than it did then, but never mind. Let's rewound. Let's see here now. Oh yeah. There we go. Plus 3 loader. Enter. Insert tape and press play. Right, so we've inserted it, let's press play. Don't worry about that clicking, it's just my slightly dodgy SCART connector on the back of that telly. I will remake this at some point. Is this going to run? I don't know if this game's going to load or not. Oh yeah, there we go. So as we can see, it does run the computer absolutely fine. It is loading some software now. Let's see if we get a bit of a title screen up, and then I'll probably call it a day. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think we've had enough of that. It shows that it's starting to load anyway, and the power supply works. So yeah, I'll stop that and I'll switch that off. But yeah, I Hope you like that. And you can do this with old PC 80 and 80X power supplies as well. It's just, this is really nice because it's roughly about the same size as a Spectrum plus 2A power supply. It's a little bit longer, a little bit narrower, but it's about the same weight as well. But this is, there's no big transformer in this, it's all switch mode supply. Other nice little thing about this is it'll run on between 100 and 250 volts. So yeah, if you was to take your computer abroad, take your computer say to America or Japan or somewhere that's got a strange low voltage, this will actually work it. Right, I'll leave it at that. Anyway, so yeah, I hope you liked that. I hope you thought that was interesting anyway. So I'll leave that there for now, so thanks for watching and goodbye.